Is the end of this entity really near? Khamenei confirms that the end is near and only a few days separate you from it. The proof of that is what happened last night, a historic precedent that hasn't happened in decades. Iran has completely turned the tables on Netanyahu and Trump, and for the first time, Iran is not in a defensive position, but is the one drawing the red lines, while Netanyahu is making a grave mistake that puts the Middle East on the brink of explosion. Just hours before the start of the World Cup in America, what is happening behind the scenes? Why is Trump trembling because of this development? Today's topic is coming up. We'll take a break and return soon. Stay with us. Dear viewers, peace be upon you and God's mercy and blessings, and welcome to our renewed meeting today, God willing, in this series of opinion episodes, which we always dedicate to keep up with the latest developments in this major global conflict taking place in the Middle East between Iran and the Epstein Alliance. I return to you once again, dear viewers, after these dramatic developments that began yesterday. In just a few hours, we may be separated from the start of the World Cup in America, Canada, and Mexico, while the situation in the Middle East seems once again to be slipping out of control. It is very clear that President Donald Trump is unable to manage these developments. After this insult he received from Israel, because Netanyahu in fact directed a strong insult at Trump, maybe not everyone noticed it, but there was a real insult. Those who work in the diplomatic field know this well, because Netanyahu, despite the request he received from Trump to show restraint and not to escalate against Iran, but he ignored all of this with the airstrikes that the Israeli army carried out against specific targets in Iran. So, in the last 24 hours, dear viewers, it has truly been very difficult for Trump at the beginning of this development. Just so everyone knows, the beginning of this development was during the past week, when Netanyahu threatened to strike the southern suburb in Beirut. At that time, Iran came out and issued a stern warning to Netanyahu and Trump. If the southern suburb in Lebanon is struck, then Iran will strike northern Israel. That was the Iranian threat. Netanyahu, who does not want any agreement between America and Iran, paid no attention to this Iranian warning. Despite all of Trump's attempts, in which Trump was calling on Netanyahu to calm things down and avoid escalation and so on, Netanyahu paid no attention to any of this. And yesterday he actually struck Beirut's southern suburbs. He insulted Trump, truly. So here Iran really kept its promise and struck northern Israel with dozens of rockets. Trump tried again to calm things down, asking them not to respond so that the escalation would stop at this point. But Israel carried out airstrikes on Iran, so these attacks between the two sides continued throughout the past 24 hours. And here everyone should pay attention, because we are witnessing a major shift in this conflict. And that is, for the first time, we see that Iran is the one initiating strikes against Israel, and Israel is the one responding. This probably means it has never happened before, ever. For the first time in the past, the act of aggression always came from Israel, either by striking targets in Iran, carrying out assassinations of Iranian leaders in Syria, in Iraq, and so on, and then the Iranian response would follow. But this is the first time we see the opposite. Iran is the one initiating strikes against Israel, and Israel is only responding to these Iranian strikes. In fact, Iran is now completely changing the equation in the region. This is the first point. The second point is also, for the first time, we find that Iran is directly intervening militarily to protect another country from Israeli aggression. In the past, we know that superpowers like America, for example, are the ones who threaten and intervene militarily in the event of one country attacking another. That is, they intervene militarily to protect one country from another. Today, Iran has changed this equation. It has also started to intervene militarily to protect another country. Iran threatens and carries out military strikes. If Lebanon is attacked, Israel will be attacked. That's what they say. And in fact, they keep their promise and strike Israel in defense, defending Lebanon. So here we can say that Iran is raising its level of deterrence to the regional level. The principle of an eye for an eye that Iran has relied on throughout this war is no longer limited to when it is attacked or its territory is targeted. This means it has gone beyond that to show, Iran as a regional power capable of imposing a new reality and protecting the countries of the region. We could say that today, with this bold move, Iran is putting itself to a real test. If it succeeds in deterring the Israeli aggression against Lebanon, it will also succeed in deterring any other aggression against all the countries of the region, including the Gulf states as well. This means that it will appear as a truly powerful regional force capable of imposing security by force. Not just in the Hormuz Strait, not just in the Gulf waters, but throughout the entire Middle East region, yes. Netanyahu crossed this red line. He struck the southern suburb in Lebanon. So Iran had no choice but to fulfill its promise and struck areas in northern Israel in defense of Lebanon, which means this war has resumed again, with both sides exchanging strikes. We've seen this over the past 24 hours. And as usual, Israel hides its losses and prevents filming in areas where rockets and shrapnel have fallen. The Iranian Revolutionary Guard said that according to the information they have, meaning from the field, he said that all the military, security and electronic operations that were carried out last night against Israel were completely successful. That's what he said. So the important thing is that this escalation, of course, is not acceptable to President Trump. That's why and today he again called on Iran and Israel to immediately stop this military escalation. And this is also one of the things that might be happening for the first time, because in the past, when Israel entered wars, America used to provide all political and military support to Israel in these military operations or in these wars. This time, Trump is asking both Israel to stop the escalation. Israel announced a halt to the military operation, and then Iran also announced that it would stop the military operation, but with an Iranian condition. They set a condition, and this condition is that if Israel stops the military operation in Iran and Lebanon, in other words, if Israel also stops striking the southern suburb in Beirut, the Iranian army said today that if Israel resumes striking Lebanon, Iran will hit Israel even harder than the strikes it received today. You know what that means? The Iranian news agency Fars, quoting an Iranian military source, said that Iran will attack all energy facilities in the Middle East, whether they are linked to America or to Israel, in the event that Iranian energy facilities are attacked, because the Israeli objective is clear. So now what does Israel have left? You know what I mean? In order to have a significant impact on Iran, what Israel has left is to strike Iranian energy facilities. That's it. Therefore, Iran states that if Israel strikes energy facilities, Iran will destroy all energy facilities in the region, not just in Israel, but in the entire region. What's remarkable is that despite everything that has happened, Trump is still optimistic that a peace agreement is coming in the next few hours. Trump said that the final negotiations for peace with Iran are moving at a fast pace. So despite this serious escalation between Iran and Israel, the negotiations between Iran and America are still ongoing. Things are really getting closer to signing this upcoming agreement. And Trump, as usual, keeps saying that he still has other options if an agreement with Iran is not reached. He said that the naval blockade on Iran will continue until Iran signs the agreement, and even more than that. Trump made a statement to the American newspaper Financial Times saying that he is ready to send his special forces to Iran if these negotiations fail. As if he means he is able to do that or able to return to war again. But of course the reality is completely different. Trump is now in a position where he absolutely cannot return to war again, especially during this period. Not from a legal standpoint, everyone knows that. Not from a political standpoint, everyone knows that. And not from a military standpoint, everyone knows that if the American Special Forces were able to enter Iranian territory and carry out a successful military operation, they would have done it, from the very beginning. They would have done it a long time ago, not today. But the reality is that Trump is in trouble. Airstrikes are not effective. They're no longer effective at all. They will not achieve any of the declared objectives, not even the real objective. Changing the regime in Iran, that's impossible now, even if these strikes continue for many years. Sending ground forces is also completely impossible. Even Iranian territory would become a graveyard for all of them, and we've talked about this in several previous episodes. Carrying out a special military operation inside Iranian territory carries a great risk. American soldiers might be captured in this operation, and perhaps a large number of soldiers might be assassinated. America tried that maybe 2 times or more during this war in the month of Ramadan, and it did not succeed. So the only thing left today is to give in to Iran's demands and sign the agreement. It's well known he tries to hide these facts, he always tries. Through his statements, he tries to make it seem like America is still in a position of strength, as if America still has the option to return to war, as if America still had leverage. These are some of the strong points in negotiations and so on. Trump said if the negotiations with Iran fail this time, we will have 2 options, and maybe he admits it one way or another. He said the first option is that war returns again, and as I said, that's impossible. The second option, he said, is for the situation to continue as it is. Let things stay as they are now, with this truce continuing, along with the ongoing naval blockade that America imposes on Iranian ports. This is probably the most likely scenario, meaning if these negotiations fail, this is what Trump can actually do if the negotiations fail. But here, everyone should pay attention to the fact that this matter is not in Trump's hands alone. It means Trump is not the one who determines the fate of this conflict today. America actually started this conflict, but it is not the one who decides how this conflict will end. How could it possibly end? Iran will not stand idly by. Iran will never allow a long-term naval blockade. So what is it doing today? It is working to change this equation. Iran is putting the Epstein alliance in general before 2 options. Either sign the agreement under Iran's declared conditions or return to war again. And it is ready for this war if the negotiations fail. And Trump tried to leave things as they are today. As Trump said, by imposing a long-term naval blockade, Iran will attack the US Navy that intercepts Iranian oil tankers. At that point, of course, America will not accept it and will respond to Iran. Therefore, the return of tension may mean the return of war again. And we've seen this scenario, we've witnessed it in the past few days. It's a scenario that Trump absolutely does not want. During this period when America is starting to host FIFA World Cup matches. So honestly, things are really complicated today for Trump. There's a very important statement by former American intelligence officer Larry Johnson. What did he say? He said that Iran is 80 times stronger than Israel. Some people see this as a strange and astonishing statement and consider it a false claim. He said that Israel would not withstand Iran at all in the event of a full-scale war. This is a fact. If America withdraws its political and military support for Israel, Israel will be finished. Israel without America is nothing, and Iran would eliminate it in a matter of maybe days or just a few hours. Israel knows this very well. Yet, if you notice when Israel strikes Gaza or Lebanon, we see hundreds of civilian deaths in a single strike. We witness massacres against civilians, and entire neighborhoods and villages are completely wiped out and destroyed. But during the Ramadan war against Iran, we didn't hear about this. We didn't hear about civilian casualties. So in this way, the only case that perhaps drew attention was the incident at Minab Girls' School. That was probably the only exception, really. So why didn't Israel target civilians randomly as it does in Gaza and as it does in Lebanon and so on? Because Iran has deterrent power. Iran is capable of responding in kind, an eye for an eye, while the resistance in Gaza and Lebanon doesn't have these capabilities. So if the war between Iran and Israel turns into a full-scale war where everything can be targeted, Israel will disappear from the map. Because Iran has very large destructive capabilities, it's very easy to destroy Israel, and it's very difficult to destroy Iran. It's impossible to destroy Iran. Why do I say this? It means it has very vast lands. It has dozens and hundreds of cities and villages spread across all these vast lands, and with 90 million Iranians spread out over these wide territories. Whereas when we talk about Israel, all of it is the size of just one region out of the 75 regions in Morocco today, for example. Just one region, meaning it's very small. 90% of the population is concentrated in two areas, in Tel Aviv and in Haifa. So just destroying these two areas would be enough for it to disappear from the map. So pay close attention. This is the idea, the difference today. That's why this entity, without political and military support from America, is definitely politically doomed. The truth is, things are being prepared today for something great that's coming. Iran is now changing all the equations in the region today. When it threatens in defense of Lebanon and keeps its promise, this suggests that Iran is sending very important strategic messages. First, as I said, it is changing the equation. It is shifting from being on the defensive to being on the offensive. Today, it is drawing a new red line far from itself. That means pay close attention. In the past, Iran was open to all Israeli and American attacks. They would strike whenever they wanted, assassinate military leaders, and so on whenever they wanted. And the Iranian response used to be only symbolic. A missile or two or 10 missiles would be launched, but without any real impact. So Iran had only one red line, which was the assassination of the supreme leader, Ali Khamenei, the leader of the country. But now it has started to draw a red line much farther away from itself in order to keep this danger away from it. That means any attack on the southern suburb in Lebanon would mean striking areas in northern Israel. It will take the initiative. The second point is that it is also sending a message emphasizing the importance of its partners in the region, the importance of Hezbollah in Lebanon, the Houthis, and the importance of all its partners to it. Because in the past, before this war, notice that they used to negotiate with Iran. And one of the most important points that was on the table in these negotiations was that they were asking Iran to stop supporting the resistance in Gaza, Lebanon, Iraq, Yemen, and so on, to stop all forms of support directed to them. Today, this point is no longer up for discussion at all in the negotiations. Moreover, Iran, as we can see, is intervening militarily in defense of Hezbollah in Lebanon, one of its partners in the region, as if it is solidifying its position. The message is clear. Iranian support for the resistance in Lebanon, in Gaza, and so on will continue and is ongoing. That's why even the Houthis in Yemen have entered this battle. They attacked Israel with missiles and drones, announced the closure of the Bab al-Mandab Strait to Israeli ships, and there may be further escalation. The third point is that this Iranian strike once again highlights Iran's missile power. It's a message that Iran is still present, still strong. Iran, which Trump says no longer has enough missiles or air power and so on, here it is taking the initiative, launching ballistic missiles once again. It still retains its offensive and missile capabilities. Despite 40 days of war, they said they destroyed everything Iran had, so Iran today is truly not the Iran of yesterday. There are major changes happening in the Middle East. Iran is emerging as a major regional power, managing the conflict with great intelligence and cunning. It is skilled at playing chess and knows very well when to use its strengths. Now it is taking advantage of these opportunities that Trump unintentionally created. So what remains? We have to wait for the next few hours to see if there will really be an agreement. How will this agreement be, or are there other surprises coming in the next few hours? Don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. Peace be upon you and God's mercy and blessings. See you next time.